this podcast out. We mentioned them already in passing. The Pac-12. They had their meeting today with the chancellors and presidents of the remaining 9 schools. So they're no longer the Pac-12, not even the Pac-10. They're the Pac-9 right. And so apparently, George Kliavkoff, the commissioner of the Pac-12, he discussed various options, according to the news report, of the media deals that they have. But Apple is said to be by far the leader, the clubhouse leader, which is primarily streaming. I don't think they have any linear deals up there, not even with the CW, which is crazy to me, but nevertheless. So how excited are those teams of the presidents, campus presidents, and chancellors? Well, the Arizona Board of Regents, who's in charge of both Arizona and Arizona State, they're meeting tonight. They're probably meeting right now as we speak to decide what the next steps are. They say that Arizona is more or less with 1 foot out the door than Arizona State is. I think Arizona State's going to do what Arizona does. And Utah is said to be on the fence right now. They really don't want to leave, but they've got to look out for themselves. And for Oregon and Washington, they're probably wondering, we're the athletic branch, but what the hell are we doing? So I ask you this, man. Come the end of the week, do you expect Arizona and maybe another school or two to defect from the Pac-12 conference, or just one of those things just to look out for, just a nothing burger?
Yeah, I think the Pac-12 is in a really tough spot. Um, and it's kind of a shame because if the scenario plays out like you're saying, where the four corner schools end up in the Big 12, and you've got Oregon and Washington in some limbo, maybe they end up in the Big 10. You got some legitimate programs like Stanford and Cal and Oregon State and Washington State that basically wouldn't have a home.
Right.
And I would have to say, after reading some of the details on the deal, there hadn't been a dollar figure attached to it, but Pete Thamel from ESPN said that initially the deal starts lower than the Big 12's, for example, and could increase with incentives based on subscriptions to eventually, be more than the Big 12's deal. But the problem is it doesn't sound like there's hardly any linear, maybe none at all. That part's not quite clear,
Yeah, I
but
think there is. Yeah.
it's primarily a streaming deal, which I can't imagine would be all that appealing to the schools. I guess it depends on where those dollar figures end up, but right now I'm kind of like 70-30 that that this is the last year we'll see the Pac-12 in
Mm.
basically its current format. I mean, we're not privy to all the numbers that were shown, so it's not that you never know. There could be something to it that we're not aware of, um, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I don't think they the Pac-12 a few years ago went into this risky venture, running the Pac-12 network on their own. And it was like, well, if we get subscribers, and they're kind of in that same boat now. It's like, well, it'll be great if we get subscribers. And I don't know if they'll be willing to go through that again. It doesn't feel like it. Yeah, there's a chance. I'm not saying there's no chance that they'll accept it, but right now it doesn't look good for them.
Yeah. So it's like Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah,
You're saying
there
there
is.
is a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Right. I think, man, in all seriousness, this is sad. It's sad to
Yeah,
watch.
it is that.
I mean, because the Pac-12 that we grew up loving, well, not loving, but at least watching, right? With USC, UCLA. I mean, they're things that's so bad they decided to join the Midwest Conference and put their travel, all the logistics into like up in limbo. That's how bad things got in the Pac-12. And they had the worst football squad in Colorado saying, "We're out. We're headed back to the Big 12." If your worst school on the field, that is football, says we want out, that's crazy. That's just scream a lot of good things for the Pac-12. And now you got Arizona on the verge of leaving, possibly. They're doing what's been done to them is what they should have done to the Big 12, 2 or 3 years ago when Oklahoma and Texas announced that they were voting for the SEC. Instead, they sat on their behinds, they sat on their hands, and they turned up their noses at some of those Big 12 schools and they're hoity-toity in there saying, they're not academically as good as we are. We're just fine. Instead of putting the stake in the Big 12's heart, they let them fester. And once you let something fester, it grows. And so that's what's happening with the Big 12 going after the Pac-12 this time. Brett Yormark, he's one heck of a commissioner. I give him credit, man. When he smells blood, he's going after him. He's making no apologies.
You got to give him. You have to give him credit. I mean, he's managed to make a reasonable deal sound like a SEC kind of deal. He's picking teams apart. He's doing he's in the news constantly, and you got to give him credit. He's got the Big 12 front and center. I mean, legitimately, they were left for dead, and he picked them up from the ashes and has them in a pretty good position. And he did everything George Kliavkoff didn't do. He did do, even smartly getting that deal negotiated before the Pac-12 by just saying, yeah, we'll do the extension. So yeah, you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit.
Yeah, and the fact is that, yeah, that's why I say he's doing what the Pac-12 should have done, what Larry Scott should have. Now, granted, Larry Scott tried to go after the Big 12 years ago, 2010, I think it was, maybe 2013, brother. And when it was only the Texas insistence of having the Longhorn Network is what broke that deal up. Otherwise, you would have had the Pac-16 a long time ago. But still, but then those schools would have been like, well, damn, we don't have anybody to help us out with this network of ours that no one gets to see. So I guess it's a blessing in disguise. But nevertheless, I mean, Yormark is so great. He's so good for the Big 12. He says he's making their average $31.7 million, which is nothing to sniff at. But not only is not even the same ballpark as the Big 12, and I mean, as far as the Big 10 and the SEC, it's not even as much as the ACC. But the hype he's generating is so positive, is that it's like people are like making the ACC more like an afterthought. And again, props to him for he's doing his job as a commissioner. He's doing his job, but yeah, I just kind of feel for the Pac-12. And speaking of the CW, which we alluded to earlier,